Welcome back to the Step Brothers and Happy New Year. Merry Christmas. Happy holidays for everybody. Ohio State and Michigan's football season officially comes to an end, and did not end the way that both of us wanted, but 2025 season comes to a close. Andrew, final thoughts for Michigan. We'll go into obviously your game against Texas, and then we'll get into Ohio State's loss against Miami. But obviously, going up against one of the better SEC teams, and it looked like maybe the first half you were in it, but the second half it slipped away a little bit.
Yeah. No, it was a tie game at halftime. I kind of from the start I was not. I wasn't gonna be mad at the result either way, but it was just I thought it was kind of perfect, like the way that game went. It was just the perfect like microcosm of the same things that have plagued this team all season. You know, turning the ball over, just missing tackles, things like that. So, yeah, I'm just happy to wipe the Sharon Moore, erase that from my memory and get moving forward. So, yeah, what about
Yeah,
you? I know we'll get into it a little bit, but quick thought.
yeah. I mean, it was when I compare it to last year, and I'll get into more of the quarterback between Will Howard and Julian Sain, and you once again you see the high pressured moment of a young quarterback really get to him, and
Hmm.
3 interceptions, 3 weeks in the first half. It's going to cost you. Defense did exactly what they had to do to win the game, and the offense was so bad it gave the other team 7 points. So you're not going to win a football game against anyone when you do that,
Right.
especially in the playoffs. So I mean, that's what I would say if I had to do a 30-second recap of Ohio State football in the combo. Ohio State improves to 0-3 on New Year's Eve games. Improves.
Improves.
Never won. They lost to Clemson. They lost to obviously the famous missed field goal against
Right.
Georgia, and
Was
then
that
now
the
this
Peach
year,
Bowl?
yes, it was. Yeah, I forever hated Atlanta, and then we won last year in Atlanta, so it erased my memory a little bit. But also the kicking situation is so unbelievable. It's so unbelievable
Yeah.
that this has gone on for 3 years. And I mean, you saw a post that I had of Jaden Fielding talking about how he's comfortable from 60. He hit a 27-yarder. So I'm not sure what has gone on with
Yeah, it's
Ohio
been pretty
State
popular on
kicking.
social media.
It's preposterous what Ryan Day has let happen with special teams. But I'll get more into that. Obviously, like you said, Sharon Moore is out. You got your new coach,
Hmm.
and kind of like a clean slate for Michigan in a good way.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, Kyle Whittingham comes in. This last kind of week was just him putting his staff together. Came together really quickly. I'm sure a lot of it was he was kind of thinking about it before he ever took the job. So I'm not going to go through every single name here, but I really like the staff. But I do want to talk about the coordinators because I think the coordinators are pretty good hires. I'll start with Jay Hill just briefly. He's a defensive coordinator coming from BYU. He actually played for Kyle Whittingham, I believe, and then I think was a GA under Kyle Whittingham. Um, so these two have known each other for a long time. And then he kind of went his own way. He was the head coach at Weber State for a few years, I think. I think he did all right there. Then he was obviously the defensive coordinator at BYU. Did pretty good. Had some, I think his first season was 2023. Yeah, 2023. There were some rough patches to start, but these last 2 years, he's had top 20, top 25 analytical defenses, and he's put BYU. And obviously you saw the season they had this year, like they overperformed or outperformed expectations. So I'm really excited about that one, but I don't want to go into that one in too much depth because that hasn't been the issue with Michigan in recent years. So I want to talk about Jason Beck, really, offensive coordinator. Just spent the last year at Utah under Kyle Whittingham. And, I think this is a home run hire. This is probably my favorite hire of his staff. And it's absolutely a position of need at offensive coordinator for where our program sits currently. So he originally came, I think he's had a few stops as offensive coordinator. He was at Virginia for a little bit, at Syracuse, then New Mexico. Prior to this year, we came to Utah. Obviously, his quarterback Devin Dampier came with him, and you've seen what he's done for the development of Dampier. I mean, Dampier was, I think, top 10 in QBR this year. He's came a long way, and that's, he attributes a lot of that himself to Jason Beck. And Kyle Whittingham talks about his ability to develop quarterbacks, which is obviously important for the young quarterback that we have. And I think it's just going to be a nice change in identity. I'll open this by kind of asking you about the Michigan offense. If you were let's just say, just take the Ohio State game, right? Like, what did you see from? What do you like? If you were to describe the Michigan offense in a few words, like, how would you describe it?
You want it from a fan perspective or more of a
outside perspective?
The coach doesn't trust the weapons, and that includes Bryce Underwood. He doesn't trust him to throw the ball downfield, nor does he really trust him to be creative. It wasn't creative at all. And in fact, they did nothing of creativity. There was – it almost felt like, let's wait for Ohio State to make a mistake, and then we'll be a Viper and take control, which the defense did by intercepting Julian Sain. But the offense, again, going back, they were so flat.
Field goals. Yeah.
They were so flat out there, very inconsistent. And that includes Bryce Underwood. When he would be set in the pocket, he still would. He was sailing passes. So it's still probably improvement there for sure. But to play a top 5 team in the country, you're gonna have to let it fly.
Yeah. So that I really like the word creative. Like, that's what I think it lacked the most of. And that's something that Jason Beck really, his offenses show a lot of, is they show a lot of different types of personnel groups. They show a lot of misdirections, a lot of motions, a lot of shifts, right? Compared to what we've had the last couple years, where even under Harbaugh, but especially so the last 2 years under Moore, where it's just that smash mentality, right? And, maybe he took that a little too literally, right? But just trying to run it through the tackles, 3 yards in a cloud of dust, and then whatever happens on third down happens, right? And it's just really predictable, and it's just uninspiring. And I don't think it puts your quarterback in a great situation when you're putting him in a ton of third and obvious passing, right? So that's
what makes it non-threatening when you're in obvious passing with a freshman quarterback.
Yeah, especially when it's not a great passing offense to begin with. So, right. But yeah, also a lot more like pure progression reads for the quarterback. This is something that I got from Kyle Whittingham, went on the Rich Eisen show, and I watched a little bit of it. So more like pure progression versus coverage reads, like full field coverage reads. And he called it like a user-friendly offense. That's what Whittingham called it. So I think it's going to be a lot more like quarterback friendly. And I think in Bryce Underwood's second year, which we'll get into the players that are returning, but I think that's going to be, he's going to be handed a lot more responsibility. That is one thing. I am kind of standing on the position that I think Chip Lindsey, our last offensive coordinator, was actually a pretty good coordinator, and I just think Sharon Moore pretty publicly handcuffed him in terms of game plan because he wanted to do things his way and kind of take the air out of the ball in every single game. So yeah, Jason Beck, looking forward to it. I think it's a great hire. But from that point, I want to get into the portal, because obviously the portal is going pretty crazy at this point for both of our teams. And obviously when you have a coaching change, especially with how ours went down, where it's, very sudden, and, kids are put in a tough situation and having to very quickly learn about a staff who is from a completely different area of the country and they don't know very much about, right? It's hard to kind of navigate that. So obviously I just talked about Bryce Underwood. He's going to be returning, which I think is huge. I think I've seen a lot of people. What are you laughing at?
I mean, the fact that you have to say that is crazy.
Yeah, it's college football, but that's, it's the landscape that we live in. And I'm happy that we survived it. But yeah, the fact you got him to stay. Wide receiver Andrew Marsh also announced that he's going to be staying today. So that's Bryce's number one target, right? Like, bringing those guys back is absolutely huge for the offense, right? Like, that was the area of concern last year. We didn't have enough weapons on offense. And if we had to kind of figure that out all again, wouldn't be too excited about it. So I'm happy to bring those guys back. And then really there were already not what I thought like a ton of, when you talk about like a max exodus, right? Like what Penn State was having, like when James Franklin got fired, like with the amount of people that were leaving. Really it was Cole Sullivan, who's like probably the best linebacker on the returning roster. Zeke Berry, all Big Ten corner, and then Andrew Sprague and Jake Guarnera are also two all Big Ten offensive linemen. So those are all like concerning, but I'm thinking, okay, you're going to have some attrition here. It's going to be tough. But really, these last few days, a lot of these guys are reaffirming their commitments to Michigan. And clearly, Kyle Whittingham and his staff have been going to absolute work trying to retain his guys. And he did say that that'd be his priority, right? Like trying to keep the guys they already have, trying to sell them on what they're doing. So Zeke Berry, early today, withdrew from the portal. He's going to be coming back. Jake Guarnera, who I think was our best offensive lineman last year as just a redshirt freshman, withdrew from the portal. He's confirmed to be coming back. Andrew Babalola, another offensive tackle who, before tearing his ACL this year, looked like he might have gotten some time as a true freshman. He's going to be coming back. And then Evan Link, another, he before he got hurt midway through the season, he was starting at left tackle. So a lot of these guys on the offensive side of the ball, we'll still see on Cole Sullivan, linebacker. I really want to get him back. I think we're battling Oklahoma for that one, it seems. It's about 50-50. But yeah, I'm pleasantly surprised. I know it's for both of us. It's both of our fan bases. It's been pretty slow in terms of portal, in terms of like incoming other players, right? I'm sure you can agree with that.
Yeah, for sure. It
Clearly
seems like the program's falling apart.
Right. We can get into that. but yeah, it clearly just seems like roster retention was absolutely Kyle Whittingham's number one priority, which he said it would be. And the fact that they're getting kind of a late start on that, or not kind of, but a really a late start on that when he's announced as the coach the day after Christmas and the portal opens in a week, right? Like that's not a lot of time to sell these kids. So I applaud him on that. Obviously there's some other names that we want to see come back, right? Like I don't know about Jair Hill yet. He's probably our best corner. We did lose some talented young guys like freshman Jasper Parker was like our running back 3 or 4. He's going to Arkansas, but he's going to get a lot of play there. And then 2 secondary true freshmen, Elijah Dotson and Jordan Young, are 2 guys we lost that I was really high on. I know a lot of Michigan fans are really high on, so that was sad to see. But and then Bryson Cusdahl, he was actually the starting running back in the I think Jordan Marshall started against Ohio State.
Yes, he did.
Yeah. But he was hurt.
He definitely played.
And Bryson Cusdahl ended up being the lead back, so he's going to go, be a stud somewhere else. But I'm really excited about that. I also a little bit earlier today, Matt Zenitz from CBS reported that Justice Haynes is considering returning to Michigan, which I did not think was even in the realm of possibility. Up until a couple of days ago, in just 7 games, he had 857 yards and 10 touchdowns this year, was probably on his way to winning the Doak Walker. So if that were to happen, I mean, we would have that running back room would be Justice Haynes, Jordan Marshall, and then the number 1 running back in the 26th class, Savion Hyder. That would be pretty scary.
And at that point, you turn your attention towards the defense and how can you improve on that side.
Well, that's I think, and I'm glad you said that. I think some of the biggest needs I have here in the portal are wide receiver. Obviously, that was a big need last year, and it was failed to be addressed. So our best receiver was a true freshman. Tight end, I think, is an area we could add in. I don't think would hurt. I think we have depth there. I think we could get like an alpha, pass catching tight end, kind of like hope to find a Colson Loveland type. Obviously, that's few and far between, but really, I think my kind of perspective is that in terms of offense, we had a lot of young, talented guys on the offensive side of the ball, both up front and with Bryce Underwood and our young running backs, that I think retention was the biggest piece for our offense. But I think being aggressive in the portal is going to be important for the defense. I think that's going to be the key. And there's a few guys, right? Like obviously you get Kyle Whittingham and most of his Utah staff. Some of the Utah guys in the portal are obviously priorities for them, right? Like I have here defensive back Smith Snowden, who had 37 tackles and 2 interceptions, and then John Henry Daley, who's like the big name that a lot of big schools are after. He had 11 and a half sacks and 2 forced fumbles in just 11 games this year. So I know he is also a priority for Michigan. But that's kind of where that stands. But like I said, I'm really grateful that the staff made such a priority to keep our young guys here. Who knows what kind of money they had to to pay up to keep them there. I don't even want to know, but yeah, I think the young core of our offense and really the team, especially if we can get Cole Sullivan back, I think is going to be good going forward. So that's kind of all I have there. By this time next week, I'm sure we'll have a ton more there. We did no portal commits yet, but except for a long snapper that came from Pitt earlier today.
Nice.
But yeah, nice. Yeah, I think you guys got a long snapper too, didn't you?
We did. Yeah, I guess all things considered, I guess it's a good place. Would you say it's a good place to be at?
Currently, yes. I mean, they need to be aggressive here. That's no secret. Like they need to, once you kind of get your guys, that gives you something to sell, right? Like we have these guys coming back, gives you something to sell, especially like a wide receiver or something of the nature, right? To incoming portal guys, and these guys are going off the board quick, right? Like especially some of those elite edge guys, which Michigan desperately needs. That's where I would like to see them be aggressive in the coming days. But yeah, I would say knowing how short of a time window these coaches had to kind of prioritize roster retention, I'm impressed with so far. We'll see. You never know. Things can change in an instant. But so far, how they've been able to keep the core of the team together.
Okay.
So, all right. Yeah, I know. I don't know if you have really anything to add to that. I'm just trying to rip through as much as I can, but
no, I mean that question I had about just given the situation that Michigan was in with Sharon Moore and everything, but Kyle Whittingham has done a good job so far for the program. But we can get into Ohio State,
and also let me add this too, like. To put it in perspective, I myself found myself falling into this about getting really worried in the first couple of days of the portal when all you see is guys leaving and no one coming in. I think right now Michigan has 20 guys outgoing, and obviously a lot of those are guys that were never going to play. And last year, without a coaching change, there were 30. So, and compared to other programs, like other programs are half their rosters changing year in and year out. So I am definitely grateful that they're able to prioritize some of our young talent. But yeah, let's get into the Ohio State side of things.
Yeah, and I'll get into the transfer report on the Ohio State side after we kind of go over this Miami game. So Ohio State drops to 1-2 in the Cotton Bowl last 3 years. Missouri, Texas, and now Miami. I officially hate Jerry World now and New Year's Eve, and also having a bye. That seems to me to be team's Achilles heel when you don't play for 25 straight days. And I mean, I'm not an Indiana hater, but I would have loved to play Alabama because I thought they were the worst Power 4 team in the playoff. And they kind of got away with the schedule that they got, playing 8 teams. I mean, they should have lost to Auburn, but Auburn they had the most amount of drops against a top 25 team this year, and they lost by 7. So to me, Alabama
Auburn did?
Yeah.
Wow.
They had so many drops. Yeah, and they lost by 7. So nonetheless, I mean, you saw last year, I know there was different seedings, but Texas Tech couldn't score. I wasn't exactly. I think the biggest to me, and what was, I was kind of happy it happened, was Ole Miss beating Georgia. That to me was kind of crazy. It made Ohio State look a little bit less worse than it did, and maybe that the 25, 26 day thing is an issue because you don't see it in the NFL. In fact, you have 5 or 6 games in a row in the NFL, and then you go straight into the playoff. 2 teams get a bye, and that's the number 1 seed. And okay, you don't play for 13 days. There's a big difference between 25 and 13. So they do it in the NFL.
Absolutely.
So and the biggest voice right now in college football is Nick Saban, and he's saying that there needs to be a change after this. So
yeah, well, I'll say, like, you build up so much momentum to get to where you are on Selection Sunday to be in the playoff, right? Like, you build up so much momentum over the course of the season, and then that long break, you have to get yourself going again, and that can be difficult. Not playing for that long.
Exactly. It's just not the same when you're facing a team that played a week before that.
Yeah.
in an intense game, and they win, you're hyped. That whole thing is
Got momentum again.
it helps out. But Urban Meyer, I think the best quote that he had this year for Ohio State was, "You score 3 touchdowns and you win the game." And that would have happened here. I mean, the offense, I just, it blows my mind that what Julian's saying has shown us the last 5 weeks, and that includes the last 5 games. That includes when I was at UCLA and Jeremiah Smith exited the game in the middle of the second quarter. Carnell Tate wasn't even out there, and he was lost. I mean, he looked terrible, missing tight ends up the seam, and you saw that Max Clare was wide open against Miami. The play before the interception that would have tied the game 7-7.
Right up the seam.
And that's you're going to lose the game that's a 14-point swing from 7-7 to now 14-0. And I think that his inexperience has cost Ohio State a chance in that game and in the rest of the playoff. It just, you saw it against Indiana, and you saw it against Miami, probably even worse in that game. But if you go through the stats, I mean, he 22 for 35, 287. He had that 1 touchdown to Jeremiah Smith on the 4th down. Bo Jackson, 11 carries, 55 yards, a touchdown. I mean, he's been fine. He's a freshman and he's solid, but big downgrade from what Ohio State had last year. And I think they need to look for another running back in the portal, because having CJ Donaldson as your running back too it's just terrible. It's a terrible look. And he was missing blocks that was causing Sane to get sacked. He missed an assignment that ended up with a 9-yard loss. So it was terrible. I mean, it was really terrible to see Donaldson out there, and he's a blocking running back, and he's missing assignments. And I'm glad he's gone, and I hope he does well in whatever.
Is that his last year of eligibility?
Yes, yeah, he's gone. But the defense to me has, I mean, there's only so much you can do. They gave up 17 points, and that's the most they've given up all year. Illinois was 16, so I don't know what else you can ask for on the defensive side. Caleb Downs forced 2 fumbles. Ohio State did recover one of them. Now the crucial one was when it bounced right back to Malachi Toney.
Yeah, and he gained like 3 yards.
He gained extra 3 yards. I mean, that to me was shocking. That it was all the momentum towards Ohio State. I believe it would have been 17-14 at the time, and you don't get that fumble. It kind of stung, but I think the biggest where I was like, yeah, I don't think this is going to happen, was Carson Beck's 9-yard run on 3rd and 9 that to get the first down. To me, that was like that. This is probably going to go their way. And then obviously to end the half, they had a nice drive going, and it's really too bad you had to put the game on the foot of Jaden Fielding. Ohio State, I believe 2022 was the last time that Ohio State kicked a 50-yarder. I mean, that wasn't even 50 yards. So, yeah, it's been bad.
That's insane.
It's bad. Yep. So it's unfortunate that he's in that game, in that situation, because he makes that, and theoretically it'd be 17-17 with Ohio State's momentum.
Right.
I mean, you see in the NFL, I mean, kicking is so crucial. I mean, you saw in the Steelers-Ravens game that the Steelers missed a field goal, an extra point, which gave the Ravens an opportunity to win it, and then that was missed. And you see at Ohio State, I mean, against Michigan, like, he missed several. Noah Ruggles missed a game winner against Georgia that essentially cost them a national championship. And then Indiana, 26 yards. I mean, I kicked in high school, and they would have us at 30. So, and we were 15 years old. I mean, it's really shocking.
I'll say, like, the best teams are not always the ones with the most elite special teams, right? Like I would say like Iowa has elite special teams. That doesn't make them a great team in and of itself, right? But the best teams never have like a net negative at special teams, and that's what Ohio State definitely had at kicker for
Absolutely.
multiple years at this point.
Several years, and it's I don't know what has happened and what Ryan Day has seen him in practice. I mean, who cares? I mean, who cares what you're doing in practice? I used to be so good at I used to be so good at kick returns in practice when I played football, but then once I was in the game, I just ran straight and got tackled. So I mean, I seriously would return punts in practice for touchdowns all the time, but the game is completely. Any game is just different. You're a lot more nervous.
Kicking a 60-yarder in your indoor facility that you're in every day is a little bit different than kicking in a high pressure environment.
Yeah, I mean, Miami's opening drive, obviously, it was over 8 minutes. They ended up scoring, but nonetheless, I mean, it was Ohio State had to give up that touchdown at the very end to try to get the ball back, but it was over when they got that final first down at the end of the day, and it's unfortunate to see this type of defense get wasted. And when I see Brian Hartline on the sideline and he's just standing there, I can only think about how many hours it is until he's off to Tampa, because I have lost interest in him and kind of the vibe and the freaking podcasting that he's doing in the middle of a playoff push, saying how hard it is to handle two jobs. It's like you're paid for a whole year to coach Ohio State, not to go over to another school and do a meet and greet. Like I don't care about that. And I mean, he wasted no time. I think it was about 24 hours after they lost. He's in Tampa posting, and already had USF head coach, on his
I don't
profile.
excuse him from that, but I do think a big part of that is just flaws with the college football calendar as a whole, right?
I do.
The way it's set up.
I think that the way that he did it, he could have been different. To me, he could have done differently. I don't.
Oh yeah.
Blame him for taking the job when he did because of recruiting, but you have all the right in the world to say I can't do this meet and greet in the middle of a week, 7 days before the playoff. To me, that's
right.
outrageous.
I mean, he's not the only coach that's taking a new job, right? Like, I mean, both of Oregon's coordinators are taking new jobs next year. I just think the way he has handled it has just led it to be an unnecessary distraction for the team. That's kind of my viewpoint from the outside looking in.
It was, and I think that's absolutely what. I think that his talent at OC also cost Ohio State, and that's why they stripped him of his duties. It had nothing to do with too much on the plate. There's no way that's the reason why you do that. If he's the best play caller out there, he would be the one calling the plays. He's obviously not the best. Yeah, go ahead.
I don't think he really like elevated the offense by any means. I think he called the offense in a way that like a lot of people could go out and call an offense against bottom tier Big Ten competition with the athletes that Ohio State has and have done like a similar job, right? But like I think of like Chip Kelly last year, I thought like schematically he really elevated what you guys were doing, and I just did not see that at all from Hartline.
It was mediocrity from Brian Hartline at offensive coordinator. And if this portal stuff that I'm about to get into has nothing to do with Brian Hartline leaving, there is one guy who's confirmed going to USF, then I don't really miss him, because I've grown up with Ohio State. I grew up with Ohio State before Hartline was coaching there. He played there in 07 and 08, but that I was used to good wide receivers before he was there. So he's just been on a nice run recently. But to me, it's tough. It's unfortunate that there's a bad taste in my mouth with Brian Hartline, and that's just the way it goes. But we can get this kind of this transfer portal. I think it's outrageous. I think it absolutely needs to change. I think the NFL has free agency. This is what free agency is for college football, and we are in the middle of the season. We are in the season. and
Yeah.
we are seeing guys on teams who are still currently playing, in the transfer portal. Devin Brown last year entered the transfer portal when Ohio State was on its run. He had to. It's not his fault, but the system is making him do that, and and that's happening right now for all these schools. So it's just a disaster. I mean, I think that there needs to be the window possibly right before they report to the schools. There is definitely a way of fixing this and putting the games closer together. Why is there a week 0? Nobody cares about week 0. Play that freaking Irish game in week 1. That doesn't need national attention. I don't like no one cares about Georgia Tech and Kansas State. I'm serious. No one cares. It's always a terrible game anyway. It sucks. But for Ohio State, offensive starting right guard Tegra Tishbola, he didn't start in the playoff game, but he got most of the starts this year. Miley Graham, who's a former 5-star. Aaron Scott, the biggest surprise to me, he was a 5-star. He's a corner. Bryce West, he just committed to Wisconsin. CJ Hicks is following Brian Hartline. He's been the biggest disappointment out of all these names I'm about to say. Lincoln Kienholz, he's going to Louisville. Go off. I mean, if the quarterback position is still tough because there's obviously one guy, and you have a 5-star right behind you. Julian Thurman, kind of sucks to see. I mean, I remember when he got recruited and would see a bunch of his high school highlights, and he really wanted to go to Ohio State, and he was 4-star tight end, and just hasn't worked out for him. Bryson Rogers
made some good plays.
He did. Good blocking tight end. And then James Peoples, who just committed to Penn State a couple hours ago, is gone. But the biggest one to me that right before the show started is Quincy Porter.
Yes.
I mean, that is extremely disappointing to see. He was 5-star wide receiver, the next man up type of thing for Ohio State. You have Carnell Tate, who just declared for the draft a couple hours ago. He'll be a first rounder, probably projected to go to the Browns right now, the 6th pick. And then you have obviously Jeremiah Smith, who'll be a first rounder, but then Quincy Porter was kind of after Jeremiah, it's him. So if it's not, and that he's gone. I mean, obviously there's a possibility where he comes back, but
right.
I'm hoping that because he's leaving, someone like Cam Coleman is coming to Columbus. But it sucks to see how this whole thing with college football has completely twisted itself. I mean, they have overcorrected from when we were growing up.
Yeah, I think it's obviously gotten a little bit out of hand. I do think some sort of action somewhat soon will be taken to get it under control a little bit more, especially from a financial standpoint. Like the timing of it, I think a big thing that this was something that Dan Lanning was talking about. Like there's easily a way you can just have the entire season wrapped up before New Year's, right? And then you have your portal window. You have your portal window right after. I think that makes a lot of sense. Yeah, and I do envision a financial, like, not a cap necessarily, but just some way to kind of, because these numbers are just going to keep growing, right? Like a Texas Tech, that money is not drying up anytime soon. Like, and they will continue to spend.
No, oil money has stayed growing since the dawn of time.
And right. Exactly, and so, like, what Texas Tech has. You think about like what kind of the era was before NIL, right? Like it was the Alabamas of the world who are paying under the table, right? So they have a clear advantage. And then you have NIL, which is supposed to like decrease that advantage, and talent is supposed to be more spread out, which these past few years, we can tell based on the teams that are in the semifinals right now that it is more spread out. But then if you continue down this path, that gap is going to thin out again by the schools that can, pay up the most money to kids.
I think that the NIL has opened the door for select teams like Miami and Indiana, who has Mark Cuban, funding them. But it's not like it hasn't leveled the playing field like the talking point that NCAA has talked about.
Right.
I mean, why? Because, I mean, I'm trying to think of a team. Just like Arkansas, to me, like Iowa, they once in a blue moon still that they will make the playoff. Yeah. Mississippi State was closer in 2014. That's another example. Once in a blue moon for them. They don't have the funding that Indiana is obviously Texas Tech. I mean, they're playing their new transfer quarterback $5 million. That's more than Shedeur Sanders. It's outrageous. More than Jackson Smith and Jigba. Julian Saint should not be getting paid more than JSN. It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
And the whole, you can make an excuse. Oh, that influenced you to come back to college. It's not supposed to be that way. This is amateur compared to NFL.
Let me add, I was actually listening to Isaiah Hole's podcast, which he's he's on the Michigan beat, and he was saying that obviously the complaint a lot of Bryce Underwood's season was that you just didn't see a lot of that development throughout the season. And obviously we have Coy Detmer Jr. coming in as a designated quarterbacks coach along with Jason Beck. But Chip Lindsey was both the offensive coordinator and the quarterbacks coach, and there's word apparently he was just I don't know if scared is the right word, but hesitant to really coach Bryce Underwood because he knows this kid's making more money than I am. That's a weird dynamic to try and navigate. And I absolutely think it's gotten out of hand. I wouldn't be surprised if the system changes somewhat soon.
Now, is that a confirmed conversation that happened? Or is he speculating?
No, not confirmed. Speculative, I think.
Because players in Major League Baseball and NBA and NFL are making more than a coach.
Right.
I mean, maybe it is different when you're talking about a guy like Will Anderson, who's the best edge in the NFL versus
and those people don't need to be coached as much as 18-year-old Bryce Underwood does.
Exactly. It's more of someone like Will Anderson has deserved a max contract. An 18-year-old, what has he done? Nothing. He's done nothing. And the fact that he's had access to this money, which 99.9% of people in the world don't earn, don't even sniff, is sad. It needs a change, because how can playing college football make you this wealthy? It's just crazy.
And I'll add this in terms of Ohio State and the portal. I'll add this. It literally just popped up on I got a Twitter notification just now. So Quincy Porter, I didn't really know anything about his recruitment, but his top 3 was Ohio State, Michigan, and Penn State. And now Penn State's wide receiver coach is the assistant wide receivers coach at Michigan. So I don't know.
Yeah, I mean that would. I mean, it's always crazy to see. It was Michigan had a guy come to Ohio State. I don't remember his name.
Joey Velazquez.
Yeah, it's always crazy to see that transition from.
And Roddy Gale too. Yeah, your basketball team.
Because you're in an environment where it's 100% hatred towards the other school, so you kind of, internally you're like, okay, you're kind of like that now. So it would be weird to see that, but I mean, who knows with this college in this day in college sports, these rivalries have decreased significantly. People don't care as much.
It's more about the individual. Yeah, I'm not predicting that to happen at all. I would 100% not predict that. I just think it's interesting.
Yeah, I did see something about LSU, possibly. That was the projection. I think there might be a crystal ball towards LSU for him. I mean, last couple of years, I mean, which wouldn't be surprising. I mean, they are.
You mean in his high school recruitment, or now?
Now.
Oh wow.
I mean, that's just obviously more speculation. I mean, I'm obviously with Lane Kiffin now. They have committed to $25 million at least for the year, so they'll have money to pay Quincy Porter. I'm assuming that with him leaving, he was told something. I can't imagine that he just all right, see ya.
Yeah. Oh yeah. That's not talked about, but that's how it goes in 90% of these situations, right? There's conversations you don't know about.
Man, I guess it was. Well, when you look at, I mean, new day in college football, new era, and Ohio State won the national championship on the backing of Quinshon Judkins, Caleb Downs. Those are both, and Will Howard. Those are all 3 portals. Now, Will Howard is a little different because the grad transfer has always been common, but those other 2 guys, helped them win the national championship. And look at Indiana; they're 2 wins away from doing that.
Oh yeah.
Oregon, Dante Moore started at UCLA, so it's. I don't know off the top of my head, but I want to go through all the quarterbacks that were in the playoff this year
Well,
and
all
how
four
many of them.
quarterbacks in the semifinals are all portal quarterbacks.
Yeah, exactly. So
And then
and
if you want to,
Julian
sorry,
Sang, technically
yeah,
he was a transfer one
Mhm.
semester at Alabama. Uh, so I don't. I mean, it's at some level it is what it is, but to the extent that we're at right now, where I open my phone and I'm seeing 5 stars, like I mean Cam Coleman and leaving Auburn, it just shouldn't. It just doesn't feel right.
yeah. I mean, for a coaching change, I think it's a little bit different.
It is, but I mean I don't remember really seeing that uh, back in like
I know it
2016.
didn't happen. Yeah,
Didn't.
yeah. Some change. I can't tell you exactly what changes need to be made and when, but I do envision that this won't go on for much longer because it's only I think what is it, like 4,500 players in the portal right now. I think it's like
It's
a
a,
third of all
it's a
college
little
football
bit.
players. Period.
I think it's a little under 40 now.
Yeah, just nuts.
So,
And I'll before we're gonna preview the semifinal games, but before this just popped up on my phone too. So obviously, Damon Williams Jr., the quarterback at Washington, just entered the portal after re-signing, I guess, because that's a thing now. Re-signing with Washington a few days ago, I think like 4 days ago. Pete Thamel tweeted, "Washington sources say they are prepared to pursue all legal avenues to enforce Damon Williams Jr.'s signed contract."
I mean
that is just insane.
you have people now. Obviously, the example that you just given, you have people who are leaving their letter of intent. This once you signed, you were locked in back in the day.
Yeah, it just
So
doesn't mean anything anymore.
it doesn't nothing.
Even
Well,
a verbal commitment used to mean something.
it did,
It
and
means absolutely nothing now.
Ohio State got a 5-star edge the other day. I couldn't care less about it.
What is it, like 2027?
These next year, I don't care
Oh yeah,
at all.
Come back to me in November.
Talk to me when you're on campus and you're on the field. Like I don't care.
Talk to me when you're a junior. See
Exactly,
you then.
it doesn't matter. Chaz Coleman right now is Ohio State's biggest. Well, you're talking about Twitter, which makes me check, and he's now posting Ohio. He hasn't committed, but he's now posting a bunch of Ohio State stuff. So that'll be interesting.
That'd be a good get.
Would be a good get. To me, it's always weird when Penn State, Michigan, Ohio State guys are transferring within each other. I just not as bad as Ohio State, Michigan, but to me, I mean, I highly dislike Penn State. I personally would not actually, and this is actually going to be a question for you, and this can be a little game though. Let's say you were transferring out of Michigan and you had to because you just weren't playing, and you got to go. Where are you going?
Anywhere, like no, doesn't matter the conference.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, go ahead.
I mean, I'd probably go outside the Big Ten. I don't think I could play for another Big Ten school. Probably go SEC, wherever I could go. I like Ole Miss a lot.
It would maybe depend on the position, but when I first thought about this, I thought about defense, and I honestly would probably go to Georgia.
If I was on defense, I would go to Georgia too.
Yeah. On offense, and if I wasn't playing for Ohio State, I would leave the Big Ten too. If money's not involved, then if I'm on offense, you gotta give me a second, but you can go ahead if you have an answer. Probably maybe Texas. If I'm on offense.
Yeah, I wouldn't go to Texas.
I mean, that might just be biased.
Yeah. I don't know. It's an interesting conversation. Maybe an off-season deep dive. But all right, let's preview some games here. So first, Miami's first, yes, on Thursday.
Yeah.
7:30 Eastern in the Fiesta Bowl. You got Miami versus Ole Miss. Not the matchup that most people thought we'd be getting in the semifinal game. But I think it's going to be a fun one. Obviously, you're not watching your team in it, which sucks for you. But for the average college football fan, this game I think is a fun one. So talk me through your kind of initial thoughts on this one.
Yeah, I mean, the way that Ole Miss made Georgia's defense look the way they did, it does give me a question mark about what Miami could look like. I think that the way that Carson Beck has improved since they lost to SMU, I think that was their second loss, has been good enough for me to make the playoff. I never questioned them, under Notre Dame. I mean, I just go back and forth because of how they played against A&M, and then how they played against Ohio State. They're on and off. If Ole Miss's offense play the way they did against Georgia, then I'll have them winning, but I don't think that's gonna happen. I think with everything going on with the assistants not returning to this game, I think one assistant for Ole Miss is gonna be at this game because a bunch of them are going to LSU. I think the Cinderella ends for Ole Miss, and I think Miami's gonna be playing a home game for the national championship.
Wow, that's crazy. I forgot about that.
Yeah,
That's insane.
Which
not really a home stadium to begin with, but that is pretty wild to think about. Yeah,
which I have problems with. I have major issues with that.
Major. I bet you do.
I mean, thing is, no team in the North gets that opportunity.
Right?
Why the hell does Georgia get that opportunity? We had to play against Georgia in Atlanta. That's just bullshit. Like it is.
All right. Well, yeah. To get back on track here, I lean Miami here too. I think that winning the line of scrimmage is usually a good indicator of who's going to win the game, and I very much think that Miami is going to win the line of scrimmage. They won the line of scrimmage against Ohio State. I see no reason why they can't against Ole Miss. Now, here's something that I saw Josh Paycheck talking about earlier, and this is something I think is interesting. Miami up front defensively, right? Like their starting defensive line, especially Bain and Messidor and some of those guys, they are obviously game wreckers, right? But they don't have a lot of depth and they don't rotate a lot. And I think that the matchup with Ohio State played very well into that because of the slow pace that your guys' offense is. And so they, were able to be a little bit more fresh. And then I kind of think back to that drive before half, right, where you end up with the missed field goal. And I think that was, probably the most comfortable that your offense looked like. Like they were moving the ball pretty easily. And Ole Miss plays with a lot of tempo, right? I think they play with the fastest tempo in the country. They snap the ball with more than 25 on the play clock often. So I actually think that's something that Ole Miss could use to their advantage here. But I think that Miami's going to be able to control the ball on offense. I think they're going to be able to run the ball with Mark Fletcher pretty well. Maybe even get some end around or quick pass game out to Malachi Toney, things like that. And I think Miami is just going to bully Ole Miss maybe a little bit more than they can handle. That's how I see it.
Yeah, Ole Miss, what you mentioned about their NASCAR type style offense. I mean, that's what helped them win the game. Notre Dame, Georgia wasn't used to that at all. And I mean, that's why so many points were scored. Really, I mean, it was a back and forth between those two teams. And Georgia can go fast. They showed that, but it was too much for their defense, who's pretty young, honestly, because they've lost a lot of guys to the draft the last couple of years. In Miami, I mean, with Carson Beck being a sixth year, which I have a problem with also. I think 5 years should be a cap. He's just the veteran presence plays a huge difference. And you go back to the quarterbacks. I mean, but Trevor Lawrence is kind of the only really freshman that has made a difference and has won a championship in so many years at this point.
And that team is just absolutely loaded.
Absolutely. Obviously, Will Howard last year and J.J. McCarthy, I believe, was third year playing. Mm-hmm. And then
he started a lot of games.
Exactly. Stetson Bennett, he was 30, a lot older than we were. Yeah. We were watching Carson Beck in high school, and I believe junior year. Yeah, junior. It would have been junior year. It might have been senior year. But the fact that I'm out of college and fully in a job and everything like that, to me,
he's still playing quarterback.
He's still playing college football is wild. And then, I guess 2020, yeah, Mac Jones, he was Super Bowl as well. So it's going to play a difference with Carson Beck, and I think that helps. Also goes.
And he hasn't really, against Ohio State, it's not like he took over the game or anything, but his experience, like you said, I think just timely, right? Like some of the throws he was making on third downs, being able to pick up tough third downs with his legs. Like I think that was exactly what Miami needed him to be. And we'll see if they can get that from him as well. And you have Trinidad Chambliss, who's obviously more like the kind of take over a game type. So we'll see. I think this is an interesting matchup. I do think Miami is favored, I believe.
Probably
I'm not
by
sure
three.
what the spread is, but I think that's probably accurate. But yeah, just looking forward to the matchup in general. I think it's gonna be a fun one. All right, and then let's shift to the next day game. This one's gonna be on Friday. This one will be between Indiana and Oregon, our Big Ten rematch from a game that happened early October, I want to say. It was a while ago at this point. Indiana took down Oregon 30-20 in Autzen Stadium. Give me kind of your early thoughts on this one.
Yeah, we haven't seen a Power 4 team beat a team twice in a row this year. Or last for a while, several years now. Ole Miss beat Tulane twice this year. That's the only example.
A little different.
But obviously, Tulane is not the group of five. I think Dante Moore, he's not the question to me. Obviously, he plays poorly. They will lose the game. That's for any quarterback. But I think that the defensive side of Oregon, especially their D-line, has improved a ton since they got dominated by Indiana.
Yes.
And they've completely flipped. Even the way that they looked against Penn State, allowing, I think, 24 points. They look lost there too. I mean, that Penn State, was all right on offense, and they allowed a lot of points happen, and then gave up 30 the next week to Indiana. But then after that, I mean, if I'm going kind of through this, 10 points, 7 points, 16 points, 13 points, 27 points to a high-powered offense in USC, Washington. That JMU game made me question, but at the same time, there was a ton of second stringers out there.
Yeah.
If this game is controlled between the two, I can see Oregon winning by 6. I honestly envision Mendoza making a huge mistake, and that could just be a simple interception, but I think he falls here in some capacity.
Interesting. Yeah, this one's kind of a hard one to pick for me, right? Like it's impossible not to take that mindset of, well, playing the same team twice. You know what I mean? And obviously you have that. Like I know it doesn't. It has not mattered at all. But like the talent differential, right? Like, isn't it like every national champion for however many years has been over 50% in blue chip ratio, and Indiana's 8? Like I can't just not think about it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead. I mean, I don't care as much about that because, I mean, Mendoza threw for 16 touchdowns last year, and now he's the Heisman winner. So, and you're talking about kind of, teenagers improving. I think that playing a team twice to me is more of an impact than, that blue chip ratio.
I agree with that.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I almost wish I didn't say that, because I honestly, like, watching that Alabama game, you couldn't even tell who was a more talented team. Like Alabama did not look faster or bigger or stronger. And obviously that's like blue chip ratio is taking into account like their high school rankings, and Indiana's super experienced senior led teams. Like obviously you get better at football throughout your time in college and get more athletic and things like that. So I'm not really, when I'm predicting this game, I don't really want to take that into account too much. But I think you made a good point about the Oregon defense. I think have made strides, especially up front. Like Mateo Uyunglele has turned into a really great player. And I know that Texas Tech offense has been pretty terrible, which we talked about when we predicted the game.
Yeah.
But holding them to 0 is impressive. I know it took some turnovers, but they played really well. Like they fit the run incredibly well. And if they can play with that kind of balance, like with their ability to pop off an explosive, like it's been a little bit inconsistent for Oregon on offense, and obviously Indiana has a great defense, right? But if they can pop off a couple of explosive plays, and even just to get them in the field goal range, like I think this game is going to be an absolute battle.
Yeah, and when you look at the passing, Dante Moore threw for 234, very accurate, 26 for 33. I'm looking right here. The 23 points they had, turnovers. that rushing game, and obviously, you saw Indiana, kind of in a way shut down Bo Jackson, and they have done
Mhm.
that to several running backs this year. It's probably the best part of their game. That to me is going to be an issue. If Indiana
Yeah.
wins, that's because they rush for 50 yards. In Oregon does like that. You got to rush the ball in a game like this because that's where you become where you allow Dante Moore to be a game manager and not this game changer that he has to go
Mhm.
downfield and win a game.
And
Don't
he could
let
be that. He
He
could
could
do
be
that.
that, but
He
but
has done
don't.
that.
It's of course, but you don't want to put that pressure on a quarterback ever.
Yeah,
And
especially not in this spot. Yeah,
no, and
that's a good point.
this is not Tom Brady. This is not Mahomes. Like these are college kids, and this is defense dominated the entire playoff with all these teams. So if you can control
Mhm.
the game with your defense, then you're giving yourself a chance to win.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely feels like kind of as you said, a key mistake, a key turnover could definitely be the factor in this game. And
Yeah, yeah. I mean, you saw. I didn't watch a ton of that Indiana Penn State game, but that mediocrity that I saw from Mendoza, I I haven't seen the bounce back in a way where like he throws for like 400 yards. I haven't seen that
mhm.
in,
Yeah,
in him, and I think that I think it's needed. I mean, you saw like Tua, when they won the championship, and Jalen Hurts. I mean, I mean that was only kind of the two QB system that finally worked. But I guess Cardell Jones is the perfect example. I mean that
I mean
he's
that
throwing
wasn't
for
really even a QB system as much as Jalen Hurts just got benched.
yeah. But Cardell Jones, I mean, he's throwing for 300 yards in those last 3 games of the season, and I just don't see Mendoza being able to
Yeah.
do that if he has to.
Yeah,
If
and
both these
at a
defenses,
certain point, every team, and I said this on your radio show a while back, if you can remember, I said it when we were talking about Julian Sand before he turned himself into a Heisman finalist. Like when you play in big games and big moments, it's going to fall on your quarterback eventually. No matter how you play, like your system, right? Like Mendoza, Indiana, like they're a heavy RPO team, right? And he does a great job in that system. I'm not taking anything away from that, right? But I think this is the kind of game, and if they were to go play in the national championship, where you're going to have to see him make some things happen. So I think this is definitely comes down to playing playing true to yourself, playing without making mistakes, which Indiana's obviously been excellent at this year, and then maybe what quarterback has a better day. I really do.
exactly. I mean, there's no way to predict, a quarterback who throwing 2 interceptions or throwing a 90-yard pick six, and that's another problem that Ohio State had in the red zone. I forgot to add earlier, major issue, but I don't see that explosiveness from Mendoza. And although he has better wide receivers with Surratt and Cooper. It doesn't matter. It didn't matter for Ohio State, and I don't think it's going to matter here. I'm taking Oregon to win it.
I'm going to take Indiana. Maybe just more off gut feeling than anything. Um, this team, their team just reminds me a lot of what Michigan in 2023 did to people. So maybe that's why. And that team also beat Alabama in the Rose Bowl. So I don't know. Could be good mojo there.
Nothing to really take from Indiana, but I think that, and this stems from one of our hosts at work who doesn't watch much college football, and he sees the Alabama name on the scoreboard and thinks,
Right.
oh, if you beat them, you're the greatest in the world. This is not the same Nick Saban. This is not the same Nick Saban
Florida State's
Alabama
the
team.
GOAT then.
This is a completely different Alabama team. They is completely level the playing field with NIL that we talked about earlier, where in fact the northern teams as a whole now have the benefit because they just have more money. Obviously, you have the one-off with Texas Tech, but you're talking about Ohio State, Michigan, Oregon, Indiana has more money that gets poured into their NIL. Georgia has the same amount of money as Virginia Tech, which is it's a good amount, but it's nowhere near where you're averaging 200 per player, $1,000 per player.
Especially
So
if you
it's
want to compete
different.
like year in, year out, right? Like Georgia's going to continue recruiting at a high level in the high school ranks, I think. But if you want to do like what Indiana or Texas Tech does, which is reload your roster every single year, right? Like we saw this Georgia team, like you said, was super young on defense. Like they did not look like a Georgia defense for most of the year, right? So I think that absolutely plays a factor.
Yeah, and going back to our bracket. I guess we're split on this one now too, because with the one game we've missed now is Ohio State. Oh, did you had Georgia winning? Didn't
I
you?
had Georgia over Ole Miss.
Yeah.
You got me there. Shouldn't have picked Ohio State. Should have gone with my gut. I did not.
Yeah. So
I took Indiana by 3, by the way, in the Rose Bowl. So good call.
attaboy.
Thanks, Kalen DeBoer.
All right. So we obviously split here, but both have. We pick,
both of Miami over Ole Miss.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. All right. So that'll be interesting, obviously, this week, and then it's the end of really football. From the NFL and college. We have 3 more games remaining, and the NFL playoffs start here on Saturday. So it sucks to see.
Too fast.
It does go too fast. I know you're a lot more of a basketball fan in general than I am. So
that's true. Yeah.
But I will get
April to September is just the dark days. It's
for
awful.
you. I get major.
Oh, you
baseball.
got the MLB. Yeah. Not my speed.
But
let me ask you this before we head out. So obviously a Big Ten team will be playing the national championship. I guess which team would you rather see win it? Indiana or Oregon?
I'd rather see Indiana.
Really?
Yeah, I can't with Oregon. Because I think that Indiana sucks at recruiting. I believe that they're 70th, 77th in recruiting.
Yeah, I mean, for now.
And I think that's going to continue. I think that maybe they'll get near what Virginia Tech can get to, which is around 25 to 30, maybe to a 17. Oregon is going to be number 1. That's I think the number 2 this year. USC's number 1, but Oregon's projected, I think, to be number 1 next year in the recruiting class. So at least top 5. Oregon is going to be more consistent on the recruiting, and they have more money than everyone combined, except Texas Tech. I think that this puts less of a dent if Indiana wins to at least our teams, than if Oregon won, because I think people will. I can't imagine a high school player having offers from Ohio State, Michigan, Indiana, and picking them.
Yeah, it's hard
to
say.
But I can see
championship.
But I can see that if Oregon wins.
Yeah, I mean that already kind of happens.
The thing is, you've seen teams go to the national championship and fall off. Florida State, TCU. I mean, the teams have great years. It's LSU. I mean, look at what it has. LSU's been nowhere to be found. They've made the playoff one time. It's when they won the national championship. No one cares. And I think Oregon's coaching staff as a whole is better than Indiana's.
Yeah. And when you're like such a portal-led team like that, like so many things have to go right.
Exactly.
Like the Indiana's portal class next year will not be, they have a ton of like JMU guys on their team right now. All those guys are going to be gone.
Yeah, they're losing their top wide receivers. They're losing Mendoza. Hemby will be staying. They're running back. So it's going to be as of what Indiana's shaped right now. Ohio State plays them at Indiana. I'm not worried for that game as much as I am for Oregon and Texas.
Yeah, Michigan has Indiana at home next year, so we'll see. Who knows? Maybe Kurt Signetti turns Josh Hoover into Heisman candidate too. Who knows?
If that were to happen, then I would say that Kirk Signetti is better than Day. But right now, I'm hesitant to say that.
But we will cross that bridge when we get there on the Step Brothers podcast.
But yeah, no, it was a good show. Obviously, it sucks that both of us our football seasons are over, but from the transfer portal to we had.
Doesn't suck for me. I was done watching. I was done.
That's true, but just
I'm ready
in general,
to move on.
Yes, I will get there pretty soon. But go follow us. You can see TikTok, Step Brothers Podcast 1 and Step Bros _ pod. And then our personal account, Andrew.Hayden, and then the Wes Clark Show on Instagram. We'll do it next week leading up to the national championship. And we'll see what Big Ten team will make the college championship for the third year in a row. And I don't know if you know what states connect, but Ohio State, Michigan, Indiana connect with each other, so we can see the best football states in the world
Very
in
true.
a few weeks.
Yeah, and by the time we record next week, and in this era of college football, but also in this portal window, you never know what we'll be reporting. So.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I didn't expect to say the players I did today, but new era in college football. But yeah, it was.
We'll be posting about that, when we're not on the show. I'll especially if we get some exciting new portal names or things like that. I'll be over on TikTok and Twitter, so make sure to follow us over there. As always,
leave a comment. Let us know who you have in the championship, maybe who you have winning it all right now. What your biggest surprises in the portal and just these games you've seen so far the last couple of weeks as bowl season's wrapping up. But thank you for watching.